Hello everyone, it's been a while again, but I figure I'd make a new video because why not? A while ago, I watched Lars von Trier's new movie, The House That Jack Built, and my thoughts on it are still mixed, so I figure I'd talk about it. Lars von Trier has always been a controversial, provocative filmmaker, and this movie being very nihilistic and edgy is no surprise. Now, even though I'm quite against nihilism as a mindset, I do think a lot of nihilistic art is great when it has a real point. I think Dancing in the Dark and Antichrist by Lars von Trier are amazing movies because they tell compelling stories with great filmmaking and purposeful decisions. Although they're both quite bleak and can be a bit manipulative, they are genuinely impactful and they make for great movie watches if you want to be disturbed. However, something like Nymphomaniac Part 1 is honestly just hot garbage to me, with almost nothing being all that purposeful or compelling. I turn it off pretty quickly, and I don't really have a desire to return to it, because I really think I just got enough out of it. It doesn't seem like my cup of tea. Now, the house that Jack built kind of falls right in the middle. There's definitely aspects about it that are very purposeful, but mostly it just feels pointless instead. This movie does not provide you with a regular movie experience, and honestly, if you don't care about Lars von Trier as a person, there's not really much to gain out of it. The movie feels less personal in a meaningful way and more so just kind of egotistical. A lot of people seem to think this movie is Lars von Trier criticizing himself and basically hating himself. But honestly, it just feels like a very narcissistic dad making a movie about how horrible he is, but also how artistic he is. It's honestly hard to explain, and maybe it's not entirely accurate, but I don't care about what happens in Lars von Trier's life, and I certainly don't feel bad for him. Yes, there are beautiful moments, but for the most part, this movie is just bleak nonsense. The story isn't compelling, the characters aren't compelling, there's not really all that much to this movie narratively. Lars von Trier does not know how to write woman characters, at least not anymore. And quite honestly, calling that him satirizing his view on women in movies is honestly just kind of stretching it. I think the female characters in Dancer in the Dark and Antichrist are pretty convincing and well rounded as characters. I don't think they're caricatures. I highly doubt Lars von Trier really regrets the way he's depicted women in movies before, so maybe it's just him satirizing his view on women in general. You can only talk about this movie by talking about Lars von Trier as a person, and that's a bit annoying. This movie is just so obsessed with auteur theory that it just forgets being a real movie. It starts off amusing, and some parts of it are genuinely fantastic, but as it continues, it just keeps losing itself. There are so many scenes where great visual storytelling is ruined by just being explained to the audience. There's no real element of surprise in the last 15 minutes of this movie because we already know the characters that are revealed there. A lot of the stylistic decisions that are also in Lars von Trier's other movies feel just pointless here. Quite honestly, this movie being a character study of Lars von Trier himself is not a good excuse for lazy storytelling. When your disturbing movie has no real visceral impact on me, then what's the point? If you're not interested in a complete narcissist view of the world, then there's not much to gain from this movie. It's well shot, it's well acted, it's overall a pretty aesthetically pleasing and interesting film, but it's not all that great. It's not a film I hate, and I might rewatch it because I still think it's somewhat interesting, but it's a movie that has a lot of lost potential. I wasn't exactly bored by this movie, but it's just so repetitive. This movie needed to be shorter, this movie needed to be more subtle, and it needed to be more concise. Because now we have this Lars von Trier movie that isn't terrible but isn't amazing either. It just falls right in the middle. It's just okay. Rating this film is quite difficult, but I guess it would be either a 5 or 6 out of 10. So let's just do this the Anthony Fantana way and give this one a strong 5 to a light 6.